So good morning, happy Monday. The July 15th special committee meeting of the Sustainability City Light Arts and Culture Committee will come to order. It's 9:34 a.m. I am Tanya Wu, chair of the committee. Will the committee clerk please call the roll?
Vice Chair Moore, who is present.
Come back to
Okay,
Moore.
Present.
Councilmember Morales,
Here.
Councilmember Strauss,
Present.
Chair Wu.
Present.
Chair, there are 4 members present.
Thank you. Councilmember Saka has been excused from today's meeting, and Councilmember Moore is excused to leave at 10:55 a.m. If there are no objections, the agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted. We will now open the hybrid public comment period. Public comments should relate to items on today's agenda and within the purview of this committee. How many speakers are signed up for today?
Currently, we have no in-person speakers and no remote speakers signed up.
As a reminder, members of the public are encouraged to either submit written public comment on the sign-up cards available on the podium or email the council at council@seattle.gov. So we will move on to the first item of business. Will the clerk please read item 1 into the record?
Agenda item 1, a resolution related to the City Light Department adopting a 2025 to 2030 strategic plan update for the City Light Department and endorsing the associated 6-year rate path. For briefing and discussion.
Thank you. Will our presenters please join us at the table and share your presentation? Once ready, please introduce yourselves and begin your presentation.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and, good morning,
Good morning.
Council Member Chair Wu and the rest of the council members. We are so glad to see you this morning. My name is Dawn Lindell. I'm the General Manager and CEO for Seattle City Light. And I have with me at the table a WISE cohort, and that includes the chair of our Seattle City Light Review Panel. And I'm going to have us go ahead and run down the line here and introduce ourselves, and then we will hear first from the chair of our review panel.
Thank you. I'm Lee Bareka. I'm the Manager of Strategic Planning and Performance at City Light, obviously City Light.
Good morning, Kirsty Granger, City Light Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning, Siobhan Doherty, Power Supply Officer for Seattle City Light.
Good morning, Leo Lam. I'm the chair of the review panel.
Good morning, Jenny Levesque, External Communications Manager at Seattle City Light.
Very good. And so with that, I will ask our chair to, the chair of our review panel, Chair Lam, to go ahead.
Okay. So good morning, Chair Wu and council members of the Sustainability City Light Arts and Culture Committee. My name is Leo Lam, and I'm the chair of the City Light Review Panel. It's my pleasure to present the review panel's comments on the proposed Seattle City Light Strategic Plan updates for 2025 to 2030. First of all, I would like to thank our entire panel for their dedication and contributions to the plan and the letter. I would also like to thank Julie Ryan, the panel facilitator, Lee Baraka, and Maura Brugger at City Light in particular for their support of the panel's work. Seattle City Light is a leader in the public utility space, focusing on affordable, reliable, and sustainable electricity service. The review panel recognizes the scope and the vast and complex responsibilities, and we are thankful for their leadership team's transparency in helping us perform our responsibilities. As a former faculty and research scientist in electrical engineering at the University of Washington, I'm very impressed by their management in their goals of providing reliable electricity to Seattle now, while continuing to improve and advance with technology to ready the utility for the next decade and more. I have been honored to be part of the selection committee for the new General Manager, Don Lindell. Having witnessed the former General Manager, Deborah Smith's leadership, and having been through the rigorous selection process, I'm very confident that City Light is in good hands for this important transition period of electrification of the city. Today, it's my pleasure to provide a summary of our letter, and we are pleased to endorse the 2024 plan update and support its adoption as presented. I'll quickly summarize first the achievements since 2022 and then the challenges. First, the achievements. City Light installed many level 2 EV chargers and curbside charging stations with plans for public DC fast charging projects. For grid modernization, City Light developed an internal grid modernization plan for investment in transmission and distribution to maintain system reliability. Since 2022, City Light has distributed over $14 million in emergency bill assistance and low-income home energy assistance program funds. It has simplified the application process, leading to a much improved customer experience for the utility assistance program. For financial health, City Light implemented a road to recovery strategy to tackle the effect of the pandemic to reduce aging receivable risk and stabilize revenues. It has also updated financial policies with conservative credit metrics and a debt management strategy to maintain high credit ratings. In short, City Light has made good progress on its strategic plan priorities and is continuing to focus on the next steps. This leads to the challenges and changes that City Light is facing. The challenges. The shift to renewable energy has increased power supply costs due to the intermittent nature of wind and solar resources. City Light also faces higher demand growth from electrification of buildings and transportation, which will result in higher costs in the rate path. A major issue facing City Light is its depleted financial reserves due to low hydro production and extreme weather demand in 2023. Another issue is rising costs. Higher power supply and material costs, along with increased interest rates, will impact future rates. The proposed rate path is higher than the prior plan based upon the external factors, with a focus on minimizing rate increases and managing generation assets for energy and capacity needs. Besides rates, City Light will need to address service connections delays and improve the predictability of service timelines. City Light will need to pay competitive salaries and address compensation disparities to attract and retain talents. It will need to preserve hydro resources for balancing and storage and continue maintenance and relicensing work on the Skagit Hydro project. In conclusion, while the rate path in the plan is higher than has been adopted in the last strategic plan, the review panel believes it to be reasonable and appropriate given the challenges facing the utility. However, there are certain uncertainties in the forecast, and therefore, if costs decline from the originally projected levels, the panel would like to revisit the rate path with City Light again. Seattle City Light is better positioned than many other utilities, but faces challenges from demand growth, regulatory changes, new energy technologies, and severe weather events. The review panel supports a conservative planning approach to maintain customer trust, a committed workforce, clean energy resources, and a reliable delivery system. We appreciate the cultural shift towards greater inclusion and transparency, and we look forward to continued collaboration with Seattle City Light. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Wu. So I also want to add my thanks to Chair Wu, Chair Lam. I'm so sorry. I was looking up here when I said that. Thank you. I would like to add my thanks to Chair Wu and the members of the committee for being here today as we present the Seattle City Light 2025 to 2030 strategic plan for you. We appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to meet for this special committee meeting on such an important topic on a Monday morning. City Light Strategic Plan is the utility's compass. It reminds us of our shared purpose, and it points us in the direction toward our longer-term goals while we navigate the evolving energy landscape. Every 6 years, Seattle City Light develops a full strategic plan to outline the key strategies that it will focus on, and the wonderful men and women who work there will focus on over that next 6-year period. And then we update that every 2 years to highlight the progress that we've made and also to adjust for impactful changes along the way so the plan stays relevant. Wow, what a difference the last 2 years have made. So we have included incorporating customer feedback, community feedback, and employee feedback to ensure that our plans and our day-to-day work continue to reflect the diverse needs and perspectives in our community. Financial stability is essential to everything we do. This plan looks at mid-range financial stability and brings us to a financially stable place in the very near term. We need to take a good long look out much farther, much like our IRP does. For power supply, we need to look at assets in a similar way. This plan does not take the long-term look, but does allow for us to do that analysis in the next 2 years so that we can be better prepared as we prepare our next plan. The plan establishes a rate path that's built on a foundation of responsible planning. We continue our commitment to affordability. We are walking a fine line of balance between ensuring that we can meet the power needs of the community and that we can keep rates as affordable as possible. We are working toward a sustainable and a predictable approach to setting rates over time. It also means providing new pricing options to help customers better manage their energy their energy bills, through efficient use of our products and services. This also helps us to achieve our conservation goals. City Light is a public, not-for-profit utility that works hard to keep rates as low as we can for everyone. We provide individual assistance to those who are struggling, and we remain steadfast in delivering on our mission to safely provide our customers with affordable, reliable, and environmentally responsible energy services. So I am going to turn this over to Lee Barreca, who manages this process for us. She actually was hard at work on this before I ever got here and has guided me and all of the rest of us through it. So I think she's the right one to present today.
Thank you. Nina, I think we can go to slide 4. Dawn covered this first right here. Right. The city, as Dawn mentioned, we have City Light Review Panel is one of the stakeholder groups that we work closely with in developing the plan. And for City Light, our review panel is made up of 9 members representing City Light customers and partners and experts in different fields. They review and assess our proposed strategic plan, and as you saw, provide an opinion on the merits of the plan, as well as the accompanying rate path. This group was established by Seattle City Council ordinance in 2010. 5 positions are assigned by the mayor, 4 assigned by the City Council, but all 9 positions are voted in by the Seattle City Council. Next. This is our 7th strategic planning cycle. The chart, beginning in 2012, illustrates the timeline for completion of full plans as well as updates. The plan we're presenting to you today is an update. We expect to submit a fully new plan for approval in the spring of 2026. This would be General Manager Lindell's first full plan with us. Thank you. During each planning cycle, we engage our race and social justice program team. Their insights related to diversity, equity, and inclusion provide valuable guidance in the development of program plans and budgets that are key to achieving the work contained in the plan. In fact, all major utility planning efforts, such as our Transportation Electrification Strategic Investment Plan and our Integrated Resource Plan, are reviewed through a similar lens. Plans such as these inform the strategic plan and rate path. In addition, each planning cycle includes multiple types of outreach. This cycle was no different. Our outreach efforts have informed the contents of this update. We met with stakeholder groups such as the Northwest Energy Coalition, NWEC, the Business Owners and Managers Association, BOMA, City Light's key customers, suburban franchise city representatives. And we also analyzed data from customer surveys and engaged with our own customer advocacy team. As we've said before, the review panel plays a big role in helping to surface issues related to reflecting their constituencies' interests and concerns. Over the next 6 years, we will continue conversations that we've started with community-based organizations, customers, and stakeholder groups. Here are a couple of findings from our outreach work. Customer bills remain a high priority across all stakeholder groups. According to the Clean Energy Future Survey, customers have interest in additional programs and education surrounding renewable energy, electric vehicles, and solar power. The top area of interest was the development of solar in our region, most notably solar incentives, residential solar, solar education, and community solar programs. Residential customers expressed interest in receiving personalized and educational messaging related to utility rebates, incentives, and ways to conserve energy. Commercial and residential customers, as well as City Light employees, would like to be included in decision-making with City Light earlier in the process when their input can shape the outcomes. We have teams in place at City Light, such as our employee experience, communications, employee advisory, and race and social justice teams that can help us engage with customers and employees earlier throughout the planning process. Because this planning cycle was for an update to the previous plan and includes few new programs, and perhaps more importantly, we were between general managers throughout the bulk of the development timeframe, our outreach efforts for this update were not as robust as they would be if we were developing a new plan, a fully new plan. Working with General Manager Lindell, we've already begun a lessons learned process that will include an expansion of our outreach efforts, exploring how we can broaden the audience from whom we hear from. Grammatically incorrect. Finally, in 2025, we're entering into a 2-year pilot partnership with the Department of Neighborhoods. Through this partnership, we will be working with DON to reach customers with whom we have had little contact in the past. We're very excited to start this work together. Great. The 2023 plan helped us keep our sights set on the future as we dealt with the pandemic in the rear view. City Light is now ready to face the clean energy transition. It's time to get going. That's what this plan is about, acknowledging the progress we've made, reaffirming our vision, and continuing to meet the challenging landscape. We are powering ahead. For this update, our high-level business strategies or key areas of focus remain the same. We know the future is uncertain and success is dependent on approaching opportunities and challenge with energy, creativity, curiosity, and a commitment to equity. Economic recovery is happening all around us, and customer needs are changing. As a community-owned utility, our job is to help our customers thrive in the future we are creating together. One thing that's slightly different is that this plan, this update, is that we have identified outcomes for each priority. What we commit to achieving with this plan. Detailed initiatives and work plans are the way we will achieve the outcomes. Each outcome that you see will have measurable targets that we will review monthly. This monthly review will help us stay flexible as our industry heads into a new era of new challenges. Customer service remains a top priority. City Light is focused on enhancing our understanding of customer needs so we can offer products and services that make a difference in their lives. Some regions of City Light's service area experienced above average power outages. We are committed to changing that. In addition, City Light is improving processes that will enable us to provide customers awaiting service connections with predictable timelines that will allow them to plan accordingly. Change isn't just coming, it's here, and we need to be responsive. We aim to have enough different renewable energy sources to keep up with growing needs. We're planning ahead with the help of our Integrated Resource Plan, or IRP, trying new ideas like asking big energy users to cut back during peak times and the use of utility-scale batteries. As General Manager Lindell mentioned, our access to power is growing, the need is growing. In 2022, our IRP indicated a need to increase our power portfolio by 400 megawatts over a 10-year period. The 2024 update, just 2 years later, is showing a need to increase the portfolio by 1,825 megawatts over 10 years. And it also includes adding almost 120 megawatts of customer conservation. Making the switch to electricity for transportations and buildings will be a tremendous change. We are committed to equitably supporting all customers, big and small, in their decarbonization efforts. The move to 100% carbon-free energy across the nation is the right thing to do, but it also comes with costs. Electrification is expected to increase our load much more rapidly than we predicted 2 years ago. Building electrification is growing 3 times faster, primarily from commercial and residential heat pump adoption. Transportation electrification growth is up by 70%, primarily due to fleet electrification. And creating our energy future depends on ensuring our infrastructure can meet the evolving needs of our grid to support a two-way flow of electricity, as well as increased demand, not only from electrification, but also from increased usage during severe and increasingly frequent weather events. City Light faces a challenge in updating and modernizing our existing assets. For example, we have 330 miles of direct buried cable that has passed its useful life and is increasingly impacting service reliability. Replacement of this cable will be an expensive endeavor. This strategic plan includes a study of how to do that most effectively. This priority is all about making sure we have the right mix of skilled employees to do the work, not just for today, but also in the future. We're focused on responding to the needs of employees to increase satisfaction across many of our teams. We use our employee survey to identify ways to support employees and managers throughout the many changes to our work. We're also focused on supporting our employees at every stage in their career, ensuring they have the tools and resources they need to explore the opportunities and take on new roles. Our recruitment strategy, particularly in trades, will help us ensure we have the right people to perform the work and deliver essential services, but be prepared for future staffing needs. City Light prioritizes maintaining a diverse workforce in our recruitment efforts. We do outreach to build partnerships with community colleges and other community-based organizations to increase our access to a diverse pool of talent. In addition, all staff who participate in any hiring process are required to take a training titled Minimizing Bias in Employment Decisions. Next, thank you. We take very seriously our role as financial stewards of ratepayer dollars. To do this, we must be ever mindful of the ways we can reduce expenses and limit rate impact for our customers. To reduce volatility in power costs and improve rate stability for customers, we are adapting our internal risk, forecasting, monitoring, and contracting practices to respond to changes in the wholesale power market. Adjusting our resourcing strategies to better match customer priorities is a win-win. For example, time of use pricing rewards customers with lower rates for using electricity when power is cheaper and demand is lower. Customers enjoy cost savings, and we all benefit from a reduced strain on the electric grid. By definition, energy burden is the share of annual household income used to pay home energy bills. A household that pays 6% or more of its income on energy costs is considered a high energy burden household. City Light is committed to ensuring a low energy burden and that all customers have access to clean, affordable electricity, no matter their financial circumstances. We will continue supporting and improving programs that help assure that customers can afford their utility bills and get assistance when they need it. One improvement that will help in the near term is that City Light will be raising our income threshold for participation in our financial assistance programs from 70% of the state median income to 80% in alignment with new state regulatory requirements. For example, this change will increase the maximum gross yearly income for a household of 3 from approximately $71,000 to $90,000 based on 2024 income guidelines. We Power represents much of our core business. We're implementing initiatives to ensure that we continue to have a reliable power source in a changing environment. This includes implementation of our wildfire risk reduction strategy, as well as planning for at least one annual strong weather event. As we've seen in the last 4 years, these events impact us operationally and financially. Proactive planning will ensure we are ready to handle such occurrences. As we plan for the future of providing affordable, reliable, and environmentally responsible energy services, we commit to meeting regulatory requirements such as dam safety, relicensing, and emissions requirements. We are investing in technology and cyber infrastructure enhancements to ensure we continue to be responsive and resilient to the challenges presented by a challenging energy landscape. The technology needs will be expensive. To help us meet these, we've applied for a $40 million Grid Resilience and Innovative Partnership Grant, otherwise known as GRIP grant. If we receive this grant, it will be a huge help, but it also requires a $50 million match. If we're lucky enough to get the grant, we'll be coming back to council to discuss a supplemental budget approval. Next, I'd like to introduce our CFO, Kirsty Granger, to walk through the rate path. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. We move on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the rate path that's associated with the strategic plan. This slide shows City Light's rate increases by year, both the history, proposed, and projected. That top row there is a little bit of history, and it shows rate increases approved by City Council for the last 4 years. So for 21 and 2022, some might remember that part of Seattle's pandemic response effort was to keep utility rates low. And so the increases you see here for 2021 and 2022 reflect the City Council's intention in this space. For example, in 2021, the Council approved a rate increase of 3%, but it was designed to take effect at the same time a 3% surcharge for the RSA rolled off. And so the rates customers experienced in 2021 were actually the same as in 2020. We did 22.1% for 2022. And then for 2023 and 2024, these increases were a little bit higher to catch up for the impacts of inflation as we had fallen behind during pandemic recovery. In 2024, the total increase for customers was quite substantial. In addition to the increase shown here, there was also a 4% RSA surcharge that automatically took effect at the same time. And we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. So the second row shows the increases projected by our strategic plan 2 years ago, 3%. And the bottom row shows the increases we're proposing for 2025 and 2026, which are 5.4% for each of those years. And these increases represent the price for the investments that City Light needs to make to continue to deliver our critical service, as well as deliver on the strategic outcomes that Lee just walked you through. 5.4% translates to about $5 a month for a typical residential customer. And then for customers who are enrolled in Seattle's utility discount program, it's about $2. For subsequent years, we are projecting 5% annually. Again, I want to reinforce, as Dawn said at the top of the presentation, this is a forecasted placeholder. There's a lot of uncertainty around this, and that will be informed by studies of our assets and other things, and so we'll be talking more about that in the future. So these are substantial increases, and they are higher than what we were projecting 2 years ago. And so for the balance of the presentation, I'll be discussing the reasons why we are proposing this higher increase. Nina, you're awesome. You're like on it. Thank you. So this bar chart summarizes the investments that are contributing to the need for City Light's rate increase proposal. The horizontal axis is years, and then the vertical axis is the increase in costs in millions of dollars above the budget for 2024. So if the cost is the same as 2024, it's zero. The orange bar is power costs, and this is the single largest driver for rate pressure, particularly for the next biennium. And power cost reflects the impact of high wholesale market prices, low hydro production levels, as well as City Light's need to procure new power resources. And these are going to be those wind and solar resources, and we're going to discuss this more later. Blue is O&M. Our operating costs are rising due to wages needing to catch up with market, inflation and costs for materials to maintain our infrastructure, as well as operating costs related to compliance. Yellow is capital recovery. This is the cost of paying upfront for our capital improvement work, as well as paying for the principal and interest payments on the bonds that we sell to fund our capital program. Capital recovery costs are expected to rise significantly, especially in the later part of the 6-year planning horizon. We anticipate significant costs associated with fulfilling the terms of the license for the new license for the Skagit project, as well as for transmission and distribution costs associated with adding capacity and addressing aging assets. And these are needed to ensure service reliability and then also addressing the growing needs of our city as Seattle continues to grow. The gray other category is mostly taxes. We pay a 10% revenue tax, so that grows along with everything else. Okay, so one thing that is driving our new rate outlook, and something that has changed a lot in the last 2 years, is the policy landscape. This is legislation at the federal, state, and local level, and they are all having a profound impact on the electric utility industry. So at the federal level, you may have heard of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and then there's also the Inflation Reduction Act. And both of these acts include billions of dollars to support clean energy technologies, decarbonization, as well as overhauling the nation's power grid. And this includes that GRIP grant that Lee had just discussed that Seattle is pursuing. And so as you can imagine, these federal dollars are fueling a lot of new investment in the electric industry space. Now at the state level, Washington State's Clean Energy Transformation Act, or sometimes people call it CETA, this sets specific milestones to reach 100% clean electricity supply in the state by 2045, which is pretty soon, all things considered. It's ambitious. And under this law, before 2030, all utilities must phase out coal-fired electricity and also become greenhouse gas neutral. Now for Seattle, City Light, we are already greenhouse gas neutral, and we don't have any coal in our resource stack already, so we are well situated from that standpoint. But we're still impacted directly because as other utilities work to clean up their resource portfolios and get the coal out of there, get to greenhouse gas neutral, what we're seeing is that it's making the market for electricity tight everywhere. And the price for renewables, renewable electricity like solar, new wind projects, has risen significantly. And so Seattle, we are out looking for new solar and wind projects. And so what we're seeing is that the price for that electricity is going to be higher. The state CCA, Climate Commitment Act, caps and reduces greenhouse gas emissions from Washington's largest emitters. This is exciting. It's expected to fuel a big increase in vehicle electrification. And so that'll be great from a greenhouse gas perspective, and it will also increase demand for electricity as well as for vehicle charging infrastructure throughout the city so everyone can charge these vehicles. And then here in Seattle, we have the Building Emissions Performance Standard, or BEPS. And this was adopted by City Council last year, thank you. And this is expected to significantly contribute to new electrification of buildings as we look to move away from fossil fuels within the city. And so this too is going to translate to a demand for more electricity. And so now, to underscore all of those things on that chart, it's okay, Nina, we're going to keep moving forward. All these things happened in the last 2 years, and it's exciting and transformative time in the industry, and brings challenges as well. So I'm going to turn it over now to Siobhan Doherty, our Power Supply Officer, to discuss a little bit what all this transition means for Seattle and for our power supply.
Great. Thank you. So as Kirsty mentioned, one of the areas driving our rates is power cost. We are anticipating significant increases in the demand for electricity in Seattle. This chart shows City Light's actual and forecast electricity demand from the customers we serve, what we call our retail load. The horizontal axis is showing us years from 2010 through 2040, and the vertical axis shows our average annual load in average megawatts. Note here that the axis is zoomed in to 900 to 1350 to allow us to see the changes best. The gray line here shows actual load from 2010 through 2023. Over the past decade, Seattle saw declining electricity usage. This was driven by advancements in efficiency like LED lights and heat pumps, which more than offset our city's growth. The dark blue line is our 2024 load forecast. And we can compare this to the 2022 load forecast, which is in the light gray line. And the shaded area shows the years covered by the strategic plan horizon. What we can see is that our 2024 line is much higher than our 2022 line. With electrification, load is expected to increase, and the latest forecast projects it much faster than we were expecting just 2 years ago. Compared to 2 years ago, expected building electrification growth is 3 times faster. This is primarily from commercial and residential heat pump adoption. Transportation electrification load growth has increased 70% just over the past 2 years. Again, driven by fleet electrification, so thinking about Amazon electric delivery vehicles and electric school buses. So electrification, this is really good news. It means that we're making meaningful progress towards our climate goals, but it also means City Light has a lot of work to do. New resources, new transmission, and peaking capacity in our distribution system will be needed to reliably meet this future demand. Thank you. This slide shows City Light's annual historical actual and forecast load and resources. Along the vertical axis, we have the quantity of each element in average megawatts or peak megawatts. This is the same as the previous slide, but we've zoomed out to start at 0. So the load is looking flatter. The horizontal axis has years from 2013 through 2030. The black line indicates our average annual load. This is the same line that we saw on the previous slide. We've also layered on our peak load in the orange line. This is the highest instantaneous load for that year. So while City Light's load is increasing each year, peak load is increasing even more quickly. And our need for new resources is primarily driven by that increasing peak load. Each of the bars here represents City Light's average resources for the year. The light blue portion of the bar shows the volume received through our long-term contract with the Bonneville Power Administration. We get about 40% of our resources through our contract with BPA. The dark blue shows generation from City Light's owned resources. Gray represents our contracts. And then yellow shows new resources that we're planning to add to our portfolio to meet that increasing demand. In the years where the bars exceed the load line, we're long, and we were able to sell resources to other utilities. In years where the bars do not meet the load line, so particularly looking at 2023, we were short, and we had to go out and procure more resources from the market and from our other utilities. This is a simplified view in that it's showing average load and average generation throughout the year. In reality, we need to meet load every hour of the day, and that looks more dramatic than this. We've recently executed 2 solar PPAs to meet our increasing load, and we will be conducting additional competitive solicitations to acquire new resources to meet these changing conditions. While the volume of our load is growing, we're also seeing changes to prices, and new resources are more costly than just 2 years ago. This chart shows daily prices in the Northwest from 2001 through April 2024. The vertical axis represents prices in dollars per megawatt hour, and then the horizontal axis has time. Each column represents that price for a particular day over the time period. Where we see prices spiking, we've indicated the event associated with that particular price spike. Historically, prices have been relatively stable with small increases. However, since 2019, we've seen more frequent extreme events driving prices to spike higher. The first event that we identify here is the Western energy crisis in 2001, driven by Enron's market manipulations. And you can see prices spike to over $400 per megawatt hour. After that, prices are bumpy, but we don't see anything close to the 2001 event until February 2019, when a British Columbia natural gas pipeline ruptured and sent prices to $1,000 per megawatt hour. After that, it's all about weather events. We're seeing at least one massive weather event each year, and we're needing to budget for that change. Over the MLK weekend in January 2024, the Northwest experienced a cold event that drove prices close to $1,000 a megawatt hour. During this weekend, City Light exceeded the peak load set in December 2022, which was our newest peak, by over 100 megawatts. Luckily, which had a very large impact on us. Last weekend, we also had a heat event. Luckily, we had adequate hydro to sell to help cover the additional energy that our customers used over that weekend. However, were this event to happen in the second half of the year, whether we experienced a hot event or a cold event, it's very likely this would not be the case, and we would be subject to much more extreme volatility in pricing. The increasing frequency and intensity of these extreme events is driving price spikes at a much more rapid rate than we saw the first 20 years of the 2000s. At the bottom of this slide, we've also shown average prices for different time periods. For the first 20 years, average prices were $38 per megawatt hour. Over the past 3 years, prices have more than doubled to $80 per megawatt hour. So while we're experiencing increasing load and need to add new resources, we're also seeing a dramatic increase in the cost of resources and volatility in energy pricing. This is driving the increased power cost that we see in rates. And here I'm going to hand it back over to Kirsty.
Thanks, Siobhan. All right, so this chart shows the balance in the Rate Stabilization Account, or RSA. The RSA is a cash reserve that City Light uses to buffer our costs and revenues from wholesale market transactions. And the RSA helps protect ratepayers from this unavoidable financial risk that we are exposed to in the wholesale electricity market. The balance of the RSA is shown on the vertical axis. So at 125 million, the RSA is full and it's empty at 0. Also marked on this chart are the operational rules for the RSA, and these are set by municipal code. So if the RSA falls below designated thresholds, automatic surcharges come on to refill the RSA. So what's happened is that over the last 2 years, 2 water years, due to the drought and these challenging market conditions that Siobhan just talked about, the RSA cash reserve has become depleted, which is illustrated by the bars declining as, it was full back in October 2022. And then you can see the bars moving downwards as we went through 2023. And what's even more concerning about this is that you have to take into account that this decline included $100 million in operating cash that City Council authorized us to transfer into the RSA last year to try to shore it up and avoid the surcharge from occurring. So even with that $100 million that we deposited over 2023, the RSA still fell below $50 million, which triggered the 4% surcharge that's now in effect. And this surcharge stays in place, and it is automatically lifted when the RSA reaches 100 million. The blue dotted line on this chart shows our forecast for the RSA balance through the year. It's a little stale at this point, but the concept is that as it gets drier through the summer, the RSA has been depleted. So we're struggling to refill it, even with the surcharge that's on right now. And this has to do with the warm, dry summer, prices and being strong. So nobody likes surcharges, and we understand that. But I want to underscore that this is a very challenging time in the industry. City Light is not in crisis, but we are concerned. This reserve is depleted. We're in a little bit of a tenuous place financially, and it is important, it's very important, that we replenish this reserve so that the RSA can continue to do its job of protecting ratepayers from this market risk that we are facing and weathering through right now. Managing this risk prudently is also really important because it affects our credit ratings. City Light sells bonds each year, and so maintaining a good credit rating, getting good interest rates, helps us keep rates stable for the long term as well. So a plan to replenish this reserve is part of the investments that is included in our rate proposal. It includes conservative budgeting for net wholesale revenues that we'll discuss later. Another important investment accounted for in our rate increase proposal is catching our wages up to the local market. And to be clear, by local market, I don't mean Puget Sound Energy or investor-owned utilities. We mean Snohomish PUD to the north and Tacoma Power to the south. So what's been happening is that over the past several years, City Light has struggled to recruit and retain, particularly in skilled trades. And our vacancy rate has been very high as we lose employees to SNOPUD and Tacoma Power and these neighboring utilities, where the pay rates are higher and the cost of living is lower. And so, as you can imagine, our high vacancy rate, it contributes to longer processing times, lower service qualities, even as our employees are working oftentimes on untenable levels of overtime to continue to deliver good service to our customers. So to be able to attract and retain a skilled and effective workforce, it's critical for us to be able to provide the safe, reliable, affordable, high-quality electric service that our customers expect and deserve. Labor agreements recently negotiated by the city and are currently in process. These are expected to increase our labor costs by 18% compared to 2022, and this is illustrated in this bar chart here. The last time that the current labor agreements were settled was back in 2022. We're a little bit behind. I think it's post-pandemic recovery, and so we've been working to get all of those updated. AWI reflects cost of living inflation, and we had accounted for this in our projections, but what we didn't account for is that yellow bar there, the market wage increases, and it is significant. Catching up to market wages is expected to increase our O&M costs by $17 million. And you can use a rough 17 million, about $10 million is equivalent to 1% in rates. And so rough math, $17 million is 1.7% of rate pressure. So taking a step back, paying our employees a fair wage, it's a good thing. It's in line with our values as a city, but it also means that our costs are rising. Another space where our costs we're feeling pressures is in the price for materials. As you can imagine, we're an infrastructure company. We do a lot of work. We build a lot of things. And what we've seen is that the prices for the supplies that we need to do our work, this is wires, cables, poles, transformers, the prices for these materials have doubled, tripled, and more since 2019. And we've also seen lead times increase from weeks to sometimes years. And so, this is another struggle that we have as we're trying to meet our customers' timelines, but we're needing to buy parts to do that work years in advance. And so this is another cost pressure that is incorporated into our rate proposal. Okay, I've got just a few more slides, and this is a big deck. Here's a mathematical breakdown of what is causing our rate proposal to go from the 3% from 2 years ago to the 5.4% that we're requesting your approval for today. First and largest, power cost increases. That's 3.7%. This is for costs for contracts we already have, like with the Bonneville Power Administration, as well as for new power resources. Also, RSA is depleted. We're trying to be conservative with net wholesale revenue so that we can replenish the RSA, and that's contributing 1.9% to rates. O&M accounts for inflation of labor and materials. And you'll note here that we have 1.6% here, and I just mentioned a few slides ago that just the wage impact is equivalent to 1.7. And so this is a space in our O&M where we've really done a lot of work to scrub our budget. We're really trying to fund emergent work with savings and reallocations, and so you'll be seeing that in our budget proposal that comes through with the mayor later this summer. Other is mostly taxes. And then for 2025, capital recovery, capital work is not a main driver. It's more a factor in the outer years. So subtotaling all these costs comes to 7.1% in rate pressure. But we do have a revenue offset because we are anticipating higher sales of kilowatt hours that will generate additional revenue, and so that helps offset some of these cost increases. And then the net impact gets us to the 5.4. And this is a system average increase. And so on the next slide, this is just a reminder of what comes next. This isn't the last you'll see of us this summer. Pursuant to the adoption of this strategic plan resolution, City Light will be bringing to this committee in August an ordinance that would codify new rates for 2025 and 2026. And this is just a reminder that the 5.4% is an average for the whole, everybody that City Light serves. And what the rates will do is to break that down by residential, commercial, and then set individual fees and charges. And this rate making entails assigning cost recovery and adjusting the rate design. And so our goals here are to recover the right amount of revenue and then ensure that customers pay their fair share. And then what this means is that for customers, sometimes their bill increase might vary a little bit from that 5.4. So as a reminder, we are, again, as we all know, a reminder for the folks listening at home, City Light is a not-for-profit municipal utility. And our goal is just to collect the right amount of revenue to recover our costs and then collect it in such a way that everyone pays their fair share. All right, so how does 5.4% compare with other utilities in the region? Oh, go back one, thanks. So this table compares residential rate increases that have been announced, or in the case where only the system average is available, we've included that as an indicative. And so as we've been surveying our utility peers, reading the news on what others are saying about rate increases, what we're hearing is that many are facing the same challenges that we've discussed with you today. They're feeling the impacts of changing regulations, both federal, state, and local. They're feeling higher costs for bulk power. They're seeing a more challenging wholesale market, rising wages, and higher material costs. So, Seattle is not alone in facing these challenges. It's a challenging time for all utilities in the region. So you can see on this chart here, Tacoma Power is projecting rate increases in the 5% range, Puget Sound Energy 6.9, Portland 7.4, and then Avista, they serve Spokane 13.8. All right, a couple more slides. We understand rate increases are hard, and we know that every dollar that we collect from our customers is one we need to take care of and spend thoughtfully. So this is just a table to illustrate that in the last 12 months, City Light is doing work to stretch our ratepayer dollars. Just in the last year, we've found $56.4 million in savings through process improvements, pursuing grants, and through project savings. And so we want to assure you that this is something we take seriously, being good stewards of our customers' dollars, and we are going to keep looking for savings in 2025 and 2026 to save and stretch every dollar that we collect from our ratepayers. Last slide. So we've talked about how we are transitioning to this exciting clean energy future. This transition does have a price. Energy costs need to increase. And this makes sense. Electricity shouldn't be super low cost or free because it has a price for our planet. And everyone needs to understand and feel that so we can weather this transition together. But at the same time, everyone needs access to electricity to power our laptops, light our homes, charge our phones, keep our food from spoiling, and much more. And so as we move through this clean energy transition, as we need to increase our rates to keep pace with our costs and make these critical investments, affordability is something that we take very, very seriously. So for our closing slide, we wanted to highlight again programs that customers can access if they need help paying their bills. So for income eligible, Seattle has the utility discount program that offers a 60% bill discount. For customers who are behind on their bills, we have an emergency bill assistance program that will provide credits on past due bills, and we can also help customers access federal and state programs that will help get them caught up. And for anyone who wants some help managing their energy bills, we have a budget billing program which will set their bill to a consistent amount every month, and then it readjusts just once a year. And then we have flexible repayment plans that give customers 60 days to catch up on past due bills. And then, as Lee mentioned earlier, one exciting improvement that's coming up is that we're looking to broaden our income threshold for our financial assistance programs from 70% of the state's median income to 80% of the area median income. And as you can imagine, Seattle's area median income is higher than the state. And so this means that more people in our community hopefully will be able to access the great programs that Seattle provides. So to close, once again, City Light, we are not-for-profit. We exist to serve our community. And we know our rates are, we need to propose to increase them so that they can keep pace with the costs and so we can make investments to continue to deliver safe, high quality, reliable, and environmentally responsible electric service. And even as we do this, we know that maintaining affordability is a cornerstone of our core mission. And so we'll continue to look for ways to ensure that the vital service we provide is attainable and affordable for everyone. Thank you for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for your presentation, colleagues. So I'm hoping we can vote on this on August 2nd. If there are more questions today, we'd love to invite everyone back for our Friday, July 19th meeting, because we do have another presentation today. So I will love to hear if anyone has any questions, and we'll take questions till about 10:55 before transitioning to the next presentation. Councilmember Moore, you had your hand up during the presentation?
I'm fine, thank you, Chair.
Anyone have any questions? Councilmember Strauss?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to City Light for joining us today. Colleagues, you might notice I've lost my voice. I was serving salmon for 6 hours plus at Ballard Seafood Fest this weekend, and you can't have salmon in Ballard without a little bit of yelling. And so thank you all for coming here. Kirsty, I appreciate your presentation. I will say, though, that energy costs could be as low as I think that they should be as low as possible. There is a cost associated with transitioning off of primarily fossil fuel energy sources throughout the nation. I think the highlight here is slide 26 demonstrated this very well, that without generating power for ourselves, we would be seeing if we could go to slide 26. I just want to make sure I get my numbers correct. which is without the ability to sell power, we would be increasing this plus 4.7% on top of the 5.4% that we have. So just noting that we are also able to keep our rates lower because we are a unique municipal power source. I will just go kind of ticking backwards. The RSA surcharge, as you noted, has been difficult to refill because it is the safety net that we use to make sure that we stay fiscally solvent. It is working as designed because we are not in a fiscal crisis, and that is because of the RSA surcharge, and it has been hard to refill and replenish because it is doing its correct job. That said, I think we are all waiting with bated breath for us to refill it so that we can drop the RSA surcharge and return to standard rates. Looking at our neighbors, PSE is already at 8.7%, followed by 6.9 and 9.6%. Portland is currently at 18%, followed by a 7% charge. Avista has a 13% rate increase on the horizon, and we're talking about a 5.4 or a 5.5% increase. Granted, I still have lots of questions, as you know from our last meeting. I have a lot of questions about why and how did we get from a 3% in our last proposed strategic plan to a 5.4%. But again, your slide 26 pretty clearly states how and why. If you could go back to the cost increase slide, I didn't write down what slide it is. 22. It's got the picture of all
22,
the 22. Oh, there it was. Sorry, it looks like 24. I've got the slide deck up myself.
18?
It is 25. I think that 25 is just a very good visual of the components in your table and the different prices and the increases that we've seen in these prices as compared to the actual elements. Oops, sorry, you had it there on 25. I'm a pictures person as well, and so you can see each of the elements provided in this picture graphic are the components within your table as well. Take this time to note that thank you for keeping rates flat during the pandemic. I don't know how many other utilities were able to keep rates flat during the pandemic, but you know, when we were able to pull the RSA surcharge off, you noted that rates didn't change between, I believe it was 2020 and 2021. That's right. That is incredible. It is unusual, and we are now in a more stable economy than we were in 2020, and we're now having to address some of the issues that we put off, and some of that was inflation related. These haven't been questions, mostly because we had a very long and intense briefing, but I'll go back to what was stated at the very beginning. Leo Lamb, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for your volunteer service. You had stated that reviewing, you're comfortable with this rate path as long as we're able to review the plan if the financial outlook improves. I guess so. This is the question now for CEO and Lee and Kirsty. What are our mechanisms to, in the future, if the financial outlook improves, how are we able to bring rates down rapidly and adjust this plan that we are planning to approve?
I think our first, the first thing will be that we share your anticipation of being able to see that RSA surcharge be lifted. And so I think that would be the first thing. It is an automatic mechanism. But if for some reason the market changed or whatnot, we understand that lifting that surcharge is a priority. And I think it is as well for the mayor. And then after that, we would be watching. We transmit financials to City Council each month that tracks our debt service coverage ratio. And if we are ahead, that would be a space where we would let City Council know, and then we can make adjustments from there. But I think that's how we would. Is that the first thing is going to be to look to have that RSA surcharge roll off, and then manage from there. And then we'd be coming back as part of the next strategic plan. And if we're in a better financial status with our reserves replenished and everything else, then that will mean that the next 2 years that we propose as well will reflect that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Are there additional questions? So I have a quick question for Chair Lamb. Just for the public's understanding, could the chair talk a bit about the review panel's role and decision-making process on the rate path, and what were some factors that were considered as a group?
Sure. The review panel is a group of 9 people that considered all of the presentations. We got the briefings from Seattle City Light, and on multiple topics, from rate path to energy supply to all the relicensing work that we do. And we carefully considered and challenged all of the assumptions that Seattle City Light made, and to make sure that they are reasonable and appropriate for a nonprofit utility. And that's how we came to the conclusion that the rate path is reasonable given all the external factors that are affecting Seattle City Lights.
Thank you. So just for the public's knowledge, what outreach has been done to gather input on these proposed rate changes? Because you talk about DON's partnership in 2025, but what input have we gotten for this current plan?
Let me see. Jenny, do you want to join in?
Sure, I could take that. From October 2023 to March 2024, we met with various customer groups and stakeholder groups. We talked to over 130 customers and stakeholders and presented the priorities for the plan and gathered their feedback, and listened to their questions and concerns and listened about their priorities. And so that's reflected in the plan and the presentation that you've seen before you today.
If I might add, the partnership that we've created recently with Department of Neighborhoods, we're really excited about. And I can tell we're really excited because last week I had lunch with Director Chow, and she let me know that over 20 different business units and areas, I'll just say areas, of Seattle City Light have already reached out to them to talk about how we might be able to utilize the skills and talents of that group to help us reach different people. So I think that pilot program will be well used and will enable us to dig deeper and be with communities that we have not been able to be with in the past. I think that will be really important for us.
Thank you. Is there a plan or communication plan to ensure that people understand and can prepare for these rate increases? Like for individuals who receive this bill, or is there any way to communicate the changes and why they're changing?
Once the plan is adopted, we will absolutely be communicating that with our external communications team. We are having some employee information sessions starting tomorrow to bring them up. We've met with employee groups, but tomorrow we're going to share this presentation as well so that there's a full understanding of what we're presenting to you today.
And part of our communication needs to be that partnership with Department of Neighborhoods, because people can't take advantage of our programs to help them if they don't know about them. And so we're going to really broaden that reach. We are going to work through community centers, through local churches and other nonprofits that we haven't tapped before to ensure that we get the word out so that people can take full advantage, especially with the increased salary availability for people to qualify.
I assume this is also for all the resources that could help people if they need help with bill payment. And so that's probably not going to be done on an individual basis, but through community centers and DON.
Yes, exactly. You know, sometimes I think we do a really good job in communicating through social media and communicating on our website. Often our underserved communities are underserved because they don't have time working two jobs to spend researching programs. So we want to bring the programs to them in ways that we haven't tried before and see if we can't increase that participation.
Awesome, thank you. So I have a quick question when you come next time, is it possible to get the other rates within Eastern Washington? In terms of, I'm so sorry, what slide was that? That was,
Will not share them until they're public. They've got bars. I don't know what you would call it, debarment. I'm not. That's not the right term, but they will not make public their rate increases until they're ready to make them public. So we can only get those who are willing to tell us or who have already made them public. So that may be a struggle unless they make them public in the next 5 days, I would say.
Yeah, we can do that. We also do some research comparing Seattle to other large cities across the country. As you can imagine, there's not, Seattle's sort of unique in the state in that we are a big urban city. And so that's another lens that we like to look through as well. And Seattle is really compared to a lot of other cities, big cities across the country, particularly on the West Coast, we have very affordable rates.
But we could bring a slide with that if that would be helpful, but also show.
thank you. And then I have some really hyper-specific questions. I know we don't have very much time, but I'll probably send these to you offline. But under the page 33 in the strategic plan update summary, under O&M review requirements, inflation numbers 18 million in 2024, 29 in 2025, 43 in 2026, 55 in 2027, all the way to 94 in 2030. So it's like between 2024 and 2025, that's a 61% increase, followed by a 48% increase in 2025 to 2026. I want to see if I did my math correctly, so I'll send these questions to you. I also have a question regarding forecasted inflation. Looks like it might be going down from previous highs, yet we are increasing the stated plan. Is this due to unforeseen hyperinflation from the pandemic, and also in 2022, distributed 9.8 in state pandemic funds to 169 to several customers to help reduce past due balances? Is this still going on and included in current forecasts? So I'll send these questions to you. But I want to thank you. I think if there are no further questions, and we may not need you to have to come back this Friday, we'll probably have you come back on August 2nd, unless anyone has any comments regarding that? Okay, so yes, so we look forward to seeing you on August 2nd for more discussion, and we will hopefully be able to vote in committee then. So thank you so much for coming down on a Monday and for your very comprehensive presentation.
Thank you.
And so we will now move on to the next item of business. Will the clerk please read item 2 into the record?
Item 2, Office of Sustainability and Environment, Clean Heat Program Overview for briefing and discussion.
Thank you. Will our presenters please join us at the table and share your presentation? Once ready, please introduce yourselves and begin your presentation. We'd also love to thank you for your patience, and please begin when ready.
Good morning, members of the committee, Madam Chair. My name is Jessin Farrell. I'm the Director of the Office of Sustainability and Environment. Thank you so much for having us today. We will jump right into our presentation as Christine's getting ready, but just wanted to thank our partners at Seattle City Light, in particular GM and the rest of the presentation. There is a real nexus to what they just presented and what we're going to be talking about in our clean heat presentation. And so without further ado, I will pass it over to Christine.
Right. Good morning, Chair Wu and members of the committee. My name is Christine Bunch. I am a Climate and Energy Strategic Advisor with the Office of Sustainability and Environment. And I will also introduce my colleague from the Office of Housing.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Murillo. I'm the Programs and Contracts Division Manager in the Office of Housing.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide you a briefing on the Clean Heat Program. Today we'll be providing an overview of the program, the goals of the program, and an update on how we're doing. Next slide, please. Okay. Thank you. All right, well, earlier this year, Director Farrell provided this committee with an overview of OSC's core services. And you can see how the Clean Heat Program is listed here as one of our important GHG, or greenhouse gas emission reduction initiatives, as part of our building decarbonization portfolio. The city's policies and programs are data informed. We track and report our citywide emissions every 2 years. And through that reporting, we know that buildings are one of Seattle's largest sources of climate pollution, contributing 37% of our core greenhouse gas emissions. And about half of those buildings or building emissions come from the residential sector, primarily single-family homes. The Clean Heat Program builds on city priorities and commitments expressed in our Climate Action Plan, climate strategies, and executive orders. Specifically, the Climate Action Plan targets a 32% emissions reduction in the residential sector by 2030. And some of you may be surprised to know that Seattle still has homes heating with oil. In fact, heating oil represents about 9% of total building-related emissions and 18% of residential emissions. So for this reason, we've established a goal of eliminating all oil heating in Seattle by 2030, and specifically supporting households convert to clean and energy-efficient heat pumps. The Clean Heat Program is one of our most impactful programs, delivering real and lasting benefits with moderate investments. These investments are key to leveraging additional funding from private, state, and federal sources that further support this important work. So why do we care about oil? Oil contributes to a host of environmental impacts, not just when used at the home, but also throughout the supply chain, from extraction to refining to storage and transport. Oil is expensive, volatile in price, and carbon intensive. Homes using heating oil primarily store it in tanks stored underground, and since the majority of homes in Seattle were built before 1960, we know that underground oil tanks are beyond their useful life, which also increases the likelihood of a leak. Switching to energy-efficient heat pumps provide a host of benefits, including reduced heating costs, year-round comfort, and especially since heat pumps also provide air conditioning. This has become increasingly necessary as Seattle experiences the impacts of longer and hotter summers combined with wildfire smoke events. So our goals are simple and straightforward. 1, phase out residential heating oil by 2030. And 2, advance the equitable adoption of electric heat pumps. The city's Clean Heat Program has been instrumental to the phase out of heating oil for both moderate income and income qualified households. Through this program, we're enabling our residents to reap the benefits of cleaner heating, lower heating costs, improved comfort, and improved indoor air quality. In addition, space heating electrification for households with lower incomes provides a pathway to weatherization services provided by the Office of Housing, further reducing utility costs and energy burden. The Clean Heat Program has 2 main strategic areas of focus. One is through an instant rebate model, which the Office of Sustainability and Environment implements. It serves mostly moderate income households. We OSC manage a contract with Gensco, which is one of the region's largest HVAC distributors, to support program implementation and partnerships with heat pump manufacturers such as Mitsubishi. Additionally, we partner with more than 50 local HVAC contractors participating in the program, who are primarily small businesses. These companies are a key component of marketing the program and selling the benefits of heat pumps. Their participation in the program creates more business for their companies, which in turn supports the hiring of more employees in the clean energy sector. And I'll just note that this program has strong connections to recently announced city investments that will support upwards of 250 workers with pre-apprenticeship, training, and job readiness, and that ultimately support the skilled labor force needed to meet our building efficiency and decarbonization goals. Since we launched the program 7 years ago, the city has helped more than 1,500 households convert. The second area of, and I'll just say the 400 rebates, we did 400 rebates in 2023, and our goal is to convert 400 homes in 2024. And then the second area of focus is providing income-qualified households with no-cost conversion services, and this work is managed and offered by the Office of Housing. And since 2019, the Office of Housing has converted approximately 400 homes. Oops. So I'll talk a little bit more about the rebates themselves. So OSC provides, as I mentioned earlier, OSC manages that program. We provide a $2,000 instant rebate that goes directly to the homeowner through one of our participating contractors. The homeowners get no cost estimates and ultimately choose the contractor that they want to work with. After the installation, the contractor provides the instant rebate directly onto that homeowner's invoice. So they don't have to, fill out a lot of other paperwork, they get it immediately. The contractors supply all of this information, this data, to Gensco, our partners, and who in turn invoice the city or OSC for rebate reimbursement. The city's portion of this $2,000 rebate is $1,500, and we're leveraging private dollars that come from both Gensco and Mitsubishi of $500. So that's just an example of how we're able to, through this program, leverage additional dollars that support homeowners be able to afford heat pumps. Since the average cost for a heat pump is about $20,000, this rebate, especially when combined with the federal $2,000 tax credit, does really help with affordability. OSC implements marketing and outreach campaigns, which include direct mail, digital advertising, community outreach, and more. More recently, we partnered with other local jurisdictions, including King County, Pierce County, City of Tacoma, and others on an educational campaign called The Switch Is On. The campaign provides information about home electrification benefits, available incentives and tax credits to Western Washington residents. And folks can go on to switchison.com to find out more information. And now I'll pass it over to Daniel Murillo from the Office of Housing to provide some more information about their services.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. As Christine mentioned, the Office of Housing does provide a program for income-qualified residents at 80% of area median income or below. This program is part of our larger anti-displacement efforts in the Office of Housing that goes beyond just investing in new homes, but also making sure that people in existing homes can have the ability to remain. This work involves replacing an oil furnace with a high efficiency heat pump to achieve all the benefits that have been described prior. This includes decommissioning the old oil tank. As this work is part of our larger weatherization program, a homeowner will also, or a program participant will also receive a home energy audit. And in fact, the improvement of the heat pump is often met with other weatherization to include insulation, air duct sealing, as well as other sealing efforts, so that the benefits of the heat pump are experienced by the household. In addition, as our partners at Seattle City Light referenced before, those in households that are already on the utility discount program, this will be added benefit to them because their services will be discounted, and so because their services are already discounted at 60%. Next slide, please. In terms of how we reach out to our eligible households, so as mentioned, we do have ongoing collaborations with Seattle City Light as well as our partners here at OSE, and we have a letter campaign which has proven quite successful, particularly to those who are on the utility discount program. We do other outreach to include social media campaigns, direct mail, and online advertising. We do participate in ongoing events out in the community, senior centers, neighborhood council meetings, to really get the word out into the community itself. We are working with the Affordable City Seattle program to create a online application process to, again, better provide access. And then finally, developing a language access strategies to increase applications from non-English speaking residents. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Christine.
Thank you, Daniel. So here's just an overview of really where we're at, how things are going. The good news is that we are on track to eliminate heating oil by 2030. Each year, we use data points like the census data, mechanical permits, electrical permits, King County assessor data to make sure we're tracking in the right direction. We project that heating oil, with this data, we project, again, that we'll be phasing out all heating oil by 2030. And you can see in this graph that back in 2017, we identified about 18,000 homes heating with oil, and now we're at around 9,000. That's due, and so this success is due in large part due to the Clean Heat program generating awareness of heating electrification, creating market transformation. So through like our rebates and through the work of the Office of Housing, folks are able to transition from dirty oil. And then there's also what we call the market transformation. And what that means is folks who do have the means are making the transition without the city's influence in terms of a rebate. But we do want to take credit for that because we are putting a lot of awareness out in the market. We're generating a lot of awareness about heat pumps, which again, our colleagues at Seattle City Light mentioned that heat pumps are very popular now, and they do provide year-round comfort as well as air conditioning, which is really important right now for folks. So market transformation is happening. The city's rebates and no-cost conversions have resulted in avoiding more than 11 million gallons of oil from consumption and more than 100,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That's the equivalent of taking 24,000 gas-powered cars off the road for a year. Through our rebate program, we've also been able to increase the number of participating contractors who are so instrumental in advancing the adoption of heat pumps. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that we're also proud that the program has been a model for other cities and counties in the state to emulate, which has ultimately supported market transformation. Heat pumps have become increasingly popular. For the second year in a row, we learned that heat pumps outsold gas furnaces in the US. And that's in part due to programs like Clean Heat and other programs across the state and country. So our current and upcoming priorities are focused on continuing to deliver services that have real impacts and that advance our climate and equity goals. For OSE, we expect to support 400 households each year, and for the Office of Housing, they expect to provide about 80 no-cost conversions per year. Both departments will implement the recently awarded $3.2 million from the Washington State Department of Commerce, and that was funded through the Climate Commitment Act, otherwise known as the Cap and Trade Bill or law. And when OSC will be using these funds to increase our existing $2,000 rebate for moderate income households who make up to $150,000 of area median income. That will help to offset inflation and increase affordability. And then the Office of Housing will expand their services to convert approximately 40 homes from gas to heat pumps. And then finally, the state is expected to implement the federal home electrification program that is funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, and the state is implementing those rebates starting probably in about Q1 or Q2 of next year. So we expect to coordinate very closely with the state on program design, implementation, strategy, and outreach. And then finally, OSC has hired a clean heat coordinator who will support this coordination with the state. And I think that's it. That's the end of our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you for coming before us and talking about this council bill. Colleagues, any questions or comments? Councilmember Strauss?
Thank you, Chair. Voice is still lost, still serve salmon all weekend. Thank you for your presentation. This is really great work. I'm just looking at slide, it says 11 on the PDF. Demonstrating that you've gone from approximately 18,000 homes on heating oil to approximately 9,000.
Oh, yeah. This one here?
Yes, that's the one. Have we already reached a 9,000 number? Are we on track to, and also if you need to follow up with me offline, that's totally fine. This is an exciting slide.
Yeah, we think so too. We have already reached the 9,000. These are estimates. It's probably not going to be, to the home because we're using a variety of data sources like the census data, the King County assessor data, mechanical permits, et cetera. We're kind of mashing all of those data sources together. So this is our best estimate, and we track this. We've been tracking using these data sources since 2017, so we feel pretty confident.
Great, thank you. And that's the good news. Yeah. The hard news is that the first to join such a program are probably the easiest to get, the low-hanging fruit, if we will, for the next, if this is half, the next 2 quartiles of reduction are going to become increasingly difficult. And again, if you don't have the answer today, that's totally fine because this is forward-looking and forward-working, so I'm happy to meet with you in my office later. But I'm interested to know, what is the plan for the next 2 quartiles of homes that are probably going to be increasingly difficult to get off of oil?
And thank you for that question, and we're happy to follow up with some more information with your office. I think at a high level, we need to continue to offer rebates. Those are very important, folks, to be able to afford heat pumps. Getting the funding through the state is going to be very important as well because we're able to stack those rebates, what we call stacking or braiding, where we're using our city funding and then braiding that with state funding, and then folks can also take advantage of the tax credit. So kind of when you start stacking all of this, folks can start getting $10,000 off of a heat pump, and that's what we're talking about, real money, for folks who are sort of on the fence, or maybe they're moderate income and they're not able to afford. We do know that the Inflation Reduction Act funding coming through the state will also help with that work, and that those funds will last through probably 2030, although it's limited, and so it depends on how fast they go through that pot of money.
Great.
And then, of course, with the Office of Housing, the work that they're doing. Do you want to speak to that, Daniel, and your plan?
Yeah, I think, as we continue reach out and participate in more events and really increase our capacity around outreach, I think that's going to be a huge help. It already is a huge help. So I think that's going to be, we hope that it'll bear fruit for us going forward. We'll see how it goes. But I think those are some of the strategies that we we hope to do, as costs continue to increase, identifying additional support for those costs, because these, as mentioned prior in the prior presentation, costs for heat pumps are going up, costs for labor obviously is going up. So, that's all dependent upon, how we're able to address that and deal with those increases that are inevitable. But yeah, so those are just some of the ways in which we hope to reach out to those, particularly our low-income community, who will really benefit from this program.
Great. And Chair, just one more, if I may. Thank you both for being here. I'm glad that we have two different departments working on this, but you might see where my question's going, which is there a reason that this line of business is split between two different departments? Is it historically that OH was doing this before OSE was set up, and now OSE is taking more of a role? I guess to the point is I'm having difficulty tracking the difference between the two programs because they seem so similar. So the question is, are they different, or is there a historical reason why the line of business is split between departments?
Sure, thank you for that question. So to give a little bit of history, back in 2017, the Office of Sustainability started this new program, pilot, in serving about 200 households with a rebate. Once we got sort of got some experience with the program, I worked directly with the Office of Housing to see how might we incorporate this benefit for folks who have lower incomes. Oil conversion was not part of the Office of Housing's portfolio, if you will, their weatherization services. So we were able to get some city funding to work with the Office of Housing, and they were able to do a pilot of about 25 homes. So again, kind of started slow and started ramping up. We've also always worked together very collaboratively since 2017, and the Office of Housing started their pilot in 2019. There was a lot to learn, right? As you're converting households from oil, everything from, as I mentioned, the underground oil tank and how to deal with that and decommission that, working with contractors who know what they're doing. The Office of Housing and the OSC worked really closely together in getting that pilot up and running. In terms of how we present the program, we really want to go with one Seattle approach, and that is the Clean Heat program. And we're really serving two audiences. One is folks who have lower incomes or income qualified, and the other is more of what we call market rate. And so but the benefits are the same. We want to ensure that everyone who is converting from oil are able to reap the same benefits or more. So yeah, we want to continue to have that one Seattle approach and how we promote our program. But we're definitely open to suggestions if you have any, and we're always evolving, I would say, the program. So
thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your amazing work, and thank you for your presentation. I have two quick questions. So we know 50% of Seattle are renters. There are a lot of apartment buildings. What's the difference between this program and what's the nexus for BEPS, the Building Emissions Program for apartment buildings, and is apartment buildings also part of your graph that we were just looking at?
Yeah, very good question. So heating oil is primarily only in residential homes. So, 1 to 4 units, so single family or duplexes and that type of thing. We very rarely will see any heating oil in a multifamily building. It might be a very low-rise building, but they're very small, maybe like a 6-unit. Because if you think about the underground oil tank has to distribute oil to all of those units. So they just really didn't build multifamily homes or buildings to heat with oil. So we kind of don't have that issue with BEPS. BEPS is a building emissions portfolio standard that requires buildings over 20,000 square feet and above to meet targets over time. So there really isn't any overlap. There may be, if there is a very large building that does have oil, they would still have to meet the building emissions performance standard. But there are some incentives that will be coming down the pike next year. As I mentioned, the Inflation Reduction Act program that the state is implementing will be able to support multifamily homes.
Thank you. And can you speak more a little about the outreach regarding non-English speakers or immigrant refugee communities?
Sure. So for the rebate program, our program is a little bit more, so we provide do a lot of direct mail. It's more of a broad net of folks that we try to reach out to. So we're doing translation, we're doing work predominantly with kind of like in-person events where like maybe we'll work with like the Beacon Hill Council, or we'll work with the Duwamish River Cleanup Council or other nonprofits and community-based organizations to get the word out. But really our contractors in our rebate program are the boots on the ground. They're out there doing the marketing, they're meeting with folks. The Office of Housing, I think, has done a lot more kind of specific work with immigrant refugee communities, and I'll just pass it over, not to put you on the spot if you want to take that one.
Yeah, thank you. I will say that, a key to this work is around building our language access plan and being very thoughtful and intentional about how that's built out, and then doing the analysis to make sure that we target whatever outreach that we target to those specific communities who, one, could really benefit from the program and also who could qualify for the program. That's currently in development here in a couple of months through our community engagement team in the Office of Housing. So we hope to, I don't know the outcomes of that, but we hope to really build that up a little bit more. So I'm happy to share whatever comes from that process in the future. If I may, I also want to mention that we do have a multifamily weatherization program that, while not specific to clean heat or oil to electric, does other measures as well. So happy to provide more information about what that multifamily work looks like. But I just wanted to also make a mention of that. And a little bit to go to, sorry to go back if I may for the other question around the coordination. I mean, I think, our oil to electric program is also part of a larger weatherization program. And so this is part of the services that are provided, and this program has existed for many, many years. So I just wanted to, since I had the microphone, I just wanted to make those couple of comments. But happy to provide more information about the language access and our outreach when I have more information to provide.
Thank you. Councilmember Morales?
Thank you. Staying on this slide, my recollection from a couple years ago is that we were at about 16,000 oil-heated homes, but only about 1,000 of them were low-income households or who would be eligible for assistance with the UDP. So my understanding is that the greatest burden would likely fall on people who are on a fixed income but don't qualify, so seniors or others. And I want to clarify my understanding about the potential costs, because you said a heat pump costs about $20,000. Decommissioning a tank is also about $20,000, or is that like one potential cost?
Decommissioning a tank, which means you either fill it in place, you have to pump all the oil out and then fill it in place with concrete or some kind of foam, or you could remove it. That's considered decommissioning. That's regulated by the Seattle Fire Marshal. That costs between $700 to $1,000 to decommission your tank. Maybe a little bit more if you want to really if you pull it out and have extensive gardening, or I don't know, whatever you have to do to get it back into place might cost more than that.
And then additionally, if there is cleanup required because of a leak from the tank, that could potentially be tens of thousands of dollars more. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is, particularly for those folks who might qualify for the assistance, or for seniors who are on a fixed income but don't qualify, if there is these additional costs in their attempt to make this conversion, are there other programs, you mentioned several other state, federal resources that are available that could be stacked. Are those kinds of costs also eligible for assistance for families?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just to kind of go back, you mentioned 16,000. We started around 18,000. So yeah, every year we've been making good progress. 1,000 back in 2017, we identified 1,000 folks who are on the utility discount program who are also heating with oil. That data, essentially people are self-identifying how they're heating their home. So we knew 1,000 are on UDP who are also heating with oil, but we do know that there are folks heating with oil who are not participating in UDP, right? So they're still income qualified, but for some reason they're not signing up for the utilities program, or maybe they're just sort of on the cusp with that 80% AMI. So that is where the Office of Housing really does support. As long as you're 80% of AMI or below, you would be able to qualify for the program. For a moderate income, to what you're saying, folks who are on the cusp or they're seniors on fixed income, I think that's where we anticipate that 3.2 million coming to the city from Department of Commerce. OSC out of that will get about 1.1 million to support people making up to 150%. So that's actually, I think, going to be able to cover quite a good number of folks who are sort of on the bubble. And then the other programs, so there is a federal tax credit that is in place now, $2,000 tax credit that goes through 2031. And then the state will be implementing the Inflation Reduction Act money rebate starting next year. That can support electric infrastructure. So like if you need a new panel in your home to accommodate the heat pump, like electrical wiring and that type of thing. It covers the heat pump. It covers things like heat pump water heaters, insulation, and other things. It does not cover decommissioning, however.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the Switches On website, and it lists those different programs, which is helpful, but it looks like you could potentially get $4,000 or $5,000 in different rebates, but it seems like it's for the heat pump itself and not for those other things that might become an issue. So I just wanted to get clarity about that.
Yeah, the decommissioning is not covered under, as far as I understand, any other federal program. Yeah.
And I thought I'd just emphasize, thank you, Christine, for that answer, but I just wanted to emphasize that stacking and how important that is to be able to get at that slightly expanded group of folks who may be on a fixed income but not under the threshold. So the stacking of city and state and federal resources is really important.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Great. Well, thank you for this update, and thank you for all your work. And so we have reached the end of today's meeting. Is there any further business to come before the committee before we adjourn? Hearing no further business to come before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you.